So everybody knows that when you're in a manual car, you're in gear, and you come to a stop, if you don't press that clutch in, car's gonna stall. So what keeps an automatic car from stalling? Today on 2 Minute Tuesdays, torque converters. What are they? What do they do? And why do you need one? Alright, so the torque converter is what transmits the torque from a motor to a rotating driven load. In an automatic transmission car, the torque converter connects the engine, which is the power source, to the load by means of the input shaft to drive the pump at the front of the transmission. So in a torque converter, there's typically 4 or 5 parts to it. Today we're going to keep it really simple. We're just going to go through them and explain what they do. So in a torque converter, there's the impeller, the turbine, the stator, and the friction clutch. So first off, you've got the impeller and the turbine. The impeller is welded to the front section of the torque converter and it's connected to the engine or the power source. You've got the turbine, which is splined into the input shaft of the transmission, okay? Think of these 2 discs always rotating, and they have liquid, which is the automatic transmission fluid, that's being flung around thanks to the fins at the outermost diameter of both of these discs. So the way that it works is the fluid is actually translated between discs and keeps them spinning. Think of these 2 discs as fans standing up in front of each other. You've got the impeller, which is connected to the power source, which is always powered on, right? You turn that fan on, and if you've got the secondary fan, which is the turbine, the power from the first fan is going to translate into the second one. What do I mean? When you turn on that fan, that air that's being pushed through that fan is also going to push through the second one and power the second one so that they're both spinning. You follow me so far? Alright, so we've got the impeller and the turbine, which are the 2 fans. The next step is the stator. The stator sits between the impeller and the turbine right in the middle. The stator is the actual torque converter of the torque converter. What does it do? Remember those 2 fans? So let's say that the power fan was connected to a 400 horsepower motor, right? That 400 horsepower is not going to be directly translated when it comes out the other end through the turbine. So the torque converter, or the stator, sits in the middle and regulates the amount of force that the impeller flings that fluid at to the turbine. So the stator increases the torque output by redirecting the fluid that's being flung from the impeller to the turbine and back and forth. How does it work? So think of it this way. You've got a hose, you turn the water on, and the water comes out at a decent flow rate. But when you put your finger at the opening, you know how it creates more of a fling, more pressure, because it's going through a smaller output? Well, that's basically the same thing. The stator redirects the fluid and flings it out, redistributing the torque from the impeller to the turbine. Now, once you get moving, the friction clutch that fits around the turbine is going to lock up to create a 1-to-1 gear ratio when you're cruising so that it locks up the turbine to the impeller, spins them both at the same time at cruising speed. So, when do you want to, or when do you have to, upgrade your torque converter? Well, you typically want to upgrade your torque converter whenever you're significantly increasing the amount of power that's going to flow through your transmission. Whether it be a cam or a boost application, you do that in hopes of better directing the power from the motor to the drivetrain. Now, which torque converter do you get for your car? Well, that's going to depend on your type of build and an assortment of other variables, including your engine displacement, the type of tires you're going to be running, your vehicle weight, your cam profile, what type of transmission it is, so just do your research. If you have any questions, please feel free to give us a call, 561-753-8105, or shoot us an email at support@lethalperformance.com. That's been a quick look at torque converters. Make sure you guys stay tuned and keep an eye out for when we drop this Circle D torque converter into our Cobra build and our F-150, which is Whipple supercharged. Thanks for sticking around, guys. I'm out. Gosh! Into our Cobra drive, Cobra